Ladies and gentlemen, what's up? This is BC. Welcome back to another episode of Supreme Being. Shout out to Team BC. You guys need anything real estate, or you're someone who wants to work with us on the investment side or the regular side, you can contact me, Team BC Sold, Instagram, or anybody on the team in general. Shout out to Modern Success, my coaching program, everything else that I'm relaunching, and that is available at briancasella.com, along with everything else that I have to offer, including my schedule of upcoming events, speeches, et cetera, et cetera. All right, let's begin. What I want to talk about today is something more conceptual and something that I've realized needs to be on everybody's to-do list, but also on their radar. Because I think a lot of people don't understand this, because a lot of the we can say application of this and real true living and understanding of some of these segways and certain points that you can achieve in your life, you won't understand what I'm saying until you actually get to that point. So it'll be something you can shoot for, but once you're there, it'll click and you'll say, that's what he's talking about. Okay. So I'm going to divide it up into several things, right? As an example, I'll give you a macro view a little bit, and then we'll go into each subject. Okay. So as an example, with like relationships, friendships, intimate relationships, anything on that side of life, right? Getting to the point where you are 100% complete and whole and 100% okay as an individual and being alone, right? To then present to a relationship or friendship, right? But that first piece that I talked about, we'll talk about how to get there, but that unlocks a certain level then next of friendships, relationships, intimate relationships. We'll get into that, okay? Another one, getting to the point where now financially, whether you're making money or not, but financially, you're good. You've handled your finances in a way. And again, this doesn't directly have to do with income. It's more disciplines and understanding around money, but getting to the point where now money is not on your mind, has no grip on your emotion, and you don't respond at all negatively to it. You don't have any anxiety, any stress, or anything in regards to money anymore. It's completely off the table, off the slate, and off your psyche. Then moving forward, any financial decision, your day-to-day moves, your thoughts and actions around money completely change, right? But we'll talk about that. Okay. So we have the relationships and we have the money. Another one for you is unlocking a different level of life in communication with people and just overall life, when you can do some basic things like being able to essentially fully detach from criticism and judgment, right? So when you walk outside and you live and you interact in the world, the one thing I can draw this to as a conclusion is all your attention is outward into your environment and people versus self-consciousness, right? So a way you can test this is when you walk into a room, many of you, and think of the most uncomfortable situations, because this tells you if you're good or not. You walk into the most uncomfortable situation, a club, a bar, whatever it is for you. Are you a little self-conscious, way self-conscious, or are you totally walking around like you own the place? Now, a lot of people will talk shit and say they own the place, but very few people on this planet that I've met can actually embody that to the fullest. And I'm not talking you're delusional. I'm talking about you're actually confident in yourself and you've unlocked that, right? Now, moving forward, day-to-day life for that person in this third example is completely different. But it's something you can strive for. So these three, there's more, but these are three kind of like, if we're going to talk about like boss levels that you have to defeat and unlock as if life was a video game, right? I know a lot of people think life is, they believe in, what is it called? The simulation theory, right? These would be like segways, like chapters that you can achieve and things that you can unlock for yourself in life. And let's go through them, because I've done these and more. And I'm at a point in my life where, and I would not understand it when other people in my past that I learned from would say, I have to dumb down my experience or almost not tell people some things because they won't believe it, or they'll think it's too much or it's not believable. I get that now talking about these subjects, because when I talk about what I do, what I'm thinking, and the actions that I'm doing, some people, it's out of their realm of possibility. So when people used to tell me that 10 years ago when I started this journey, now it's really starting to make sense, and it started to make sense a couple years ago. All right. So let's look at this thing. Let's talk about the first one where I talked about in relationships, right? Think about it. A lot of people suffer in relationships because they're not happy with themselves. They expect somebody else to complete them, right? This whole my better half bullshit, right? That people say. they become too dependent on other people instead of being two strong people together that complement each other versus 100% relying on each other and being dependent on each other, which we know is horrible. But we need to look at that subject because this one is a lot more inner exploration and self-discovery. As an example, I need to be first okay with me. And if I ask people that, are you okay with you? I start a lot of subjects and speeches like that. Sorry, subjects, speeches. I start a lot of speeches like that. I ask people, are you okay with you? And then I follow it up with probably not. And then, can you be okay with you? Yes. Yes, you can. Shout out to AZD, right? Heard that from him 10 years ago, maybe more. When I heard that, it stuck with me, and I'll never forget that, ever. If I get in a relationship or friendship with somebody, if I'm okay with me and I'm good with me, that means I'm not going to reflect insecurities on them. That means I'm not going to have ulterior motives with them. That means I'm not looking at them through a different set of eyes. It means I would genuinely and transparently approach that friendship, intimate relationship, or whatever it is, wholeheartedly, honestly, and openly with no agenda. Fair enough to say. Most people, I think, would agree with that, right? But if you're somebody who's insecure and this and that, right? Let's say I'm not okay with me and I approach a friendship or even more important, an intimate relationship, right? What do we tend to do with friendships and intimate relationships? We don't show certain parts of ourselves or we hide our insecurities, right? So now that person is seeing a false version of us. They're not seeing the real us. They're getting the movie version of you, the polished up with makeup on and, under perfect lighting version of you. How many times does that happen to people in intimate relationships? And after a year, they're like, who the fuck are you? You're not the person I met. It's because of what I just said. Before they entered the relationship, that individual wasn't whole. They weren't okay with themselves. They haven't been working on themselves. Now, this is not a finite state. I'm still working on myself. Everybody is in perpetuity, I believe, because that's the path that you choose to walk on this planet. If you dare choose it, right? Because it's challenging. But that's the people you need around you, whether friendships or intimate relationships. I don't want women around me. I don't want men around me or anybody around me who's not dedicated to working on themselves and getting better. Why? Because I want the person who's a part of my group, the person I rely on, the person I call a friend or business partner or whatever it is. I want to know that I can rely on them. And most importantly, I want to know that the person standing next to me, who they say they are, that's them. That's key to me. So if you're close to me at any respect, a coaching member, a student, team member, good friend of mine, and you're listening to this, you're getting the real version of me. You know who I am, what I'm about. And that's not going to change, especially when the heat is on us or a particular situation is called up that would reveal our true character, like a disagreement, right? Or a tough situation where outside circumstances put pressure on us, right? Money dispute, deal falls through, right? Think of situations like that. You ain't going to get no fakeness with me. I'm the same person from day one to now, just more upgraded and better. But they're transparent. You know what I'm about. You know what I talk about. You know when I show up, what you're going to get. Those are the people you want to be in alignment with, but you need to strive to do that. Now, you know what your shortcomings are, whether you're embarrassed to speak in front of people, whether your communication skills aren't up to par, whether your self-esteem is low and your confidence, right? Your ability to get out there and hustle and your business savvy and entrepreneurship savvy, your ability to create income, whatever it is for you as an individual. Those are the shortcomings that you need to work on and do whatever it takes to improve. Why? When you get better, guess what? You show up better and you contribute more to a friendship or partnership or relationship or whatever it is. And that's what we need. We need more of that. If stronger people at the individual level were forging themselves daily, well, naturally, when we create relationships and partnerships and friendships, it's going to be two strong people or stronger people at the very least, complementing each other versus two broken people trying to fix each other. Now we've accepted the second one. Oh, well, I'm not whole unless I have somebody else. Really? If that's your mentality, you're going to suffer a lot in life. And you're going to project a lot of those things on other people, and you don't want to do that. All right. Now, I know I only got 20 or 25 minutes and I want to go through these points, but it's something you need to work on. If I'm whole, or at least working towards whole, and I come across somebody else who's doing the same thing, we're on the same path. We're built differently now. because we've built ourselves. That's going to be a different level of relationship. If you've ever had one after you've reached that point versus before, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But until then, it's just a story and it sounds good. All right. Number two, financially. I'm at a point now, regardless of what happens, I could even have months where I don't make as much money or I have to spend more on expenses. I still have completely removed that wiring in my mind, even with the market doom pending. I'm good, man. Like I'm good. I've set myself up with smart moves, being strategic. I've allowed myself and earned this peace of mind that I have with money, where I know 99.9% of people on the planet never will. They're in the rat race. They don't have enough money to eat. It sucks, right? That's why like even today, I gave somebody a couple $100 because I felt bad and they needed it. I do random acts of kindness like that all the time. I just don't put them on video or talk about them really, except every once in a while on a podcast. But I put myself in this position to be able to do that. So the better version of me not only takes care of me, but now I can take care of other people. I have that capacity to do so. So now you would see my true colors because I'm in a position to be able to help. I'm not somebody who has nothing to give, who's trying to give. I'm somebody who has a lot to give and I'm giving a lot. But who do you know besides me, maybe if you listen to me, who's in that position to where money is not a worry? I know people who make some of them, very few, but they make more money than me, but they haven't reached this because their disciplines around money aren't there. They haven't made the right moves. They make $1 million, spend 950,000, right? They make 2 million, they spend 1.9, right? They make 10 million, they spend 10.5 and they're in debt, right? Why do you think the people who win the lotto and you're like, dude, this person got like 50 mil, what the fuck? And they end up broke and in debt and more debt after a year or two. Isn't that fucking insane? But it has to do with this principle. That same person who has not gone through the steps and enlightenment process and development process in regards to money and finances is now given that large lump sum of money. Well, they haven't earned that right. They haven't earned that position. So of course they're going to lose it. You're always going to go back down to your current state, your internal wiring and state, which is this. These are all internal shifts that happen from not only internal thoughts and mindsets and learnings and knowledge and wisdom, but also outward actions and demonstrations of these things. So you have to go through the process. You have to learn from your mistakes. You have to educate yourself on this stuff because we have different opinions now. I know people who use the spiritual aspect. Oh, it's not about money. They use that as an excuse. You can say that if you earn money, like me. I can go monk mode, but I've dominated money. I'm not speaking to you from a position of never having had it or no potential to earn it. It's different when I say it's not about money versus somebody who's never had it, who's broke, who now tries to save face and sound cool doing it. Unless there's somebody who from birth or from age 10 has dedicated themselves to achieving nirvana and they're a monk. Okay, well, that's a dedicated life commitment. That I understand. That makes sense. But that's like a sliver of a percentage of people. Most other people saying that are full of shit. Right? It's a cop-out. Let's call it like it is. It's a cop-out. But it's different when you can sit there honestly and say, I don't have to worry about money, man. This is great. When you remove that mechanism in your mind, it unleashes the ability to take more risk, be more creative, right? It frees up space in your head and it unplugs you from that externally introduced problem. Now, it's a part of our world that's been created. So you're born into it. Hey, you know what? I can teach people other stuff and I can transcend just getting in the rat race. That's fine. But let me at least in this world of money, let me dominate it. Let me come in and play their game and show them that I can beat them at it. Cool. Let's do that. Because then now you afford yourself a position to help others, enlighten others, give others the same opportunity that you had. It's cool. It puts you in a very cool position. I wholeheartedly believe with more power comes, more responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility, right? Whichever way you like it, whichever way you slice that quote. I like it. I love it. But that's what we're talking about here, man. So again, remember what I said earlier, because this is the key. It's not about how much money you're making. I know people who don't make a lot, but who have removed themselves the stress because they're very disciplined with money. X amount of percentage goes here, right? They do this, they do that, they invest, they're smart, and they don't make 1/10 of the money that I make. Not even close to that, actually, some of them. but they've unlocked this. So they have a different level of life. A lot of people carry stress and anxiety and issues with them on the surface that affect everything because of this deep-rooted, corrupted seed inside of them of the stress and anxiety with money. So it has to become a focus for you. Okay. So we talked about relationships and money. Let's wrap it up with this one. We talked about going out in the world, and I gave the example of the most uncomfortable situation when it comes to your communication, right? Because this is the comparison that I can give people. The same version of you at home in regards to your level of comfort and all the body language cues, how you stand, how you would talk, how you interact with your animals, yourself, other people, maybe your neighbors. When you're out of that comfort zone, the version of you that's out in the world, is it the same? Because if it can be the exact same person that it would be at home, you've unlocked a level of living and experience that very few people have. Let me give you an example. If you are in your house and you pour yourself a drink right now and you walk around with it, are you walking around with it like the nervous guy at the club that has it stuck to his chest like this? You might do that. You don't really realize it, but everybody does that. They hold the drink up here to their chest and their arm like a little wing. You don't do that at home. You hold it down because you're relaxed. But you're nervous in that environment without realizing it. And a coping mechanism is to hold the cup right here. That's one of a million cues of where you're at with this thing. Eye contact, how you stand. At home, you'll stand with your arms by your side. You're comfortable. But out in public, your hands have to be in your pockets, on your waist. You feel awkward with your hands by your side. Why? Because you're not comfortable. Another cue. Imagine living life, right? All walks of life, you listen to me, people listening to this. For the realtors, knocking doors, making calls, dealing with people on the street, right? Or just living your everyday life, going to the market, dealing with people. Some people are so uncomfortable with communication outside of their circle or their home. They're afraid to ask people questions or directions or help. And they'll stand there for 30 minutes until somebody comes to them. It's like, dude, that causes suffering. That causes a limited experience of life. Once you unlock that, talking to a stranger, going after the opposite sex, men going after a woman or vice versa, becomes something that you would want to do, and you actually do it. You don't go home like, oh man, I should have talked to that person. Or that basically boils down to taking advantage of opportunities. Man, life is different when you know you can tackle it and you do without even thinking about it, versus going home and fantasizing about it for 2 weeks. Oh, I should have talked to that one person, man. Fuck, blah, 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 blah. It kills you. That's the venom, like that old corrupted seed with the money. It's another corrupted seed that's laying dormant within you, slowly poisoning your soul. It's horrible, man. But these are things that we need to pay attention to, because once you unlock these different levels, you start putting together that higher version of you. And you start living at a level to now where if you continue to follow me and you dig through some of the old stuff, but the new stuff too, you'll understand my perspective differently, and you'll get more out of what I teach, because what I teach and what I talk about is for the people who are walking the path, not for the bystanders. If you're in the arena fighting and playing and participating, I'm for you. If you're a bystander or you're watching in the stands, I'm not for you. So you need to decide. You need to decide. These are things that you have to, maybe you haven't heard this, at least in the way that I explain it, right? Because I always try to deduce things in my own way and simplify them in a way that people can understand. But unlocking this, I gave you some of the pieces. However, I can describe the feeling of it and the experience of it, but until you go through one of these segues, you will not understand what I'm talking about, because the other side is beautiful. It is a level of experience that very few people on this planet will experience. I'm telling you, they'll never get here. They're not even aware of these levels of ascension, if you're going to call it that, right? So you have some homework, get to it, because these to me are right under everybody's nose. And this is something that they want. They just can't verbalize it, and they don't know how to get there or the steps to take. So hopefully this helped you. All right. Shout out to everybody. Appreciate the support. BrianCasella.com for anything that you may want or need. All right. See you guys.